Hello and welcome to Blood and Ashes, a chapter-by-chapter spoiler cast of Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson's The Wheel of Time series. I am joined, as always, by my good friends Villy
Good day.
and Jody.
Hello.
How are you, gentlemen?
Hanging. How you?
Doing better than others.
How's that beer going, Joe?
It's going great. It's really hitting the spot.
That's the energy we need in this show.
Yeah, well, I'll remember not to drink heavily the night before podcasting again.
or don't remember, whatever.
Meh.
Okay, so let's get the obligatory housekeeping out of the way. I will say again that we have loads of spoilers coming your way today and every day, as well as probably a healthy dose of profanity, slightly cranked up because of Jody's mental state and the beer he's drinking at the moment. But be warned, spoilers and profanity incoming. Last week, we ended at chapter 11, where the group had just come to Tarrant Ferry and were about to leave the two rivers for the first time in their lives. So this week, we'll do chapters 12 to 17, I think it is.
Mhm.
And I do not see any reason why we shouldn't just jump straight in. So, Villy, why don't you take chapter 12 across the Tarrant?
There we go. And this is where it now starts getting juicy. It's getting real now. Well, basically, they've been pushing the horses in the fog and reached the river Tarrant. And they Orlan went up, knocked on the door of the ferryman, convinced him with a handful of gold to ring his men up and get them across the river. Getting across the river, they wait for them all. They will move down to the ferry. And one of the conversations that Moraine has with Lan, Rand didn't pick up on the question that Lan asked, but heard Moraine's reply saying, look, you just deal with it. I can't deal with that as well, or the gist of it. And I think that plays into this next part where Lan, as soon as the ferrymen, the bargemen, and the ferry owner comes across to them, he very much stands casually and rests his hand on the sword blade or the sword hilt. And at
As
the
he is
same
wont to
time,
do.
yeah, as he is. And then Rand felt obliged to kind of echo that sentiment. And Perrin noticed this and sort of also threw his cloak back and sort of hand on his axe. And that's where Tom pulls out knives, daggers from under his cloak and sort of flicks them around in his fingers and then pretends to be cleaning his nails.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt was kind of left out because he just had a quiver and a wet bow. But I think that the discussion there was saying that, look, there's a high chance that these guys are going to rob us in this fog, like seeing the opportunity of it. Either which way, they do get onto the ferry. They do get across to the other end. And as promised, they also lure the bargemen off the barge with a promise of a silver mark for each of them. And while Lan is busy dishing out the silver and the gold, the ferry starts to come loose and then sink all of a sudden in a whirlpool. Or
Gee, I wonder what happened there.
I wonder what happened there. But again, Rand shivered just before the ferry sank.
Yeah.
He got hot. He got hot flushed. He shivered.
I think Moraine is actually standing facing the water, like she sort of is separate from the group for a minute, and
Yeah,
then Rand is
that's right.
shivering, and then
That ferry
shit goes down.
shit goes down. And Lan just throws the balance of the gold coins in the pouch that they wanted to rob anyway back at him and sort of say, there you go for your loss. Sorry about your shit. Carry on.
Good luck getting home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Moraine made the decision as well there to not extend the fog to cover them on the journey on the road further and spread the fog up and down the river banks. As a decoy, because also it's mentioning Drakkar is not very clever. They have got good eyesight.
And on the river itself.
Yeah, on the river itself as well. And they didn't travel much further than that, and they managed to find a place to rest, have a little bit of tea. Moraine heals the horses, and Perrin actually picks up, like, these horses aren't tired at all, like struggling to even give them their oat bags. And Lan informs them, no, look, they'll run until they die with what she's done to them. They'll keep running till their last breath. They then hop into their shelter there, and this is where it gets really juicy, because now Moraine pulls Egwene to the side and start talking about the source, and Saidin and Saidar, and pulls out the little blue stone for her to try and pulse up. And she's like, oh my gosh, is that how you get the source? And no, it's not the case. It doesn't work like that. And almost sort of a no, you stupid child conversation. And this is also the first time that we get the introduction to the various Ajas, because Tom keeps informing Rand that keeps eavesdropping, like, don't mess into this business. And we get introduced to the Red Aja there and what their purpose is to prevent another breaking of the world. They move on from
specifically by finding men who can channel,
yep,
and quote unquote dealing with them, gentling or killing them,
gently killing them.
that wasn't one of the options.
Yes, all of the above. And that is sort of the key events of that. But I mean, it is now starting to get real. They're on there. We realize that Egwene has got the ability to reach out and touch the source. She manages to get that little blue stone to pulse up. And Rand is freaked out by this. He's really not pleased by this at all.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about this because my memory is fuzzy, but Tom, as we know, hates Aes Sedai. Is this, as far as I recall, it's because they gentled his son, was it, or his nephew, or something?
I don't know if it was his son, but it was a relative or someone very, very close to him.
Yeah, it was his nephew, so it was his brother's son.
Okay.
It comes out, I think, a bit later though, but he tells, in this book, it comes out, yeah.
I haven't read past chapter 17. So yeah, I'll get there.
Anything else you wanted to know from that one, Joe? I've got a couple extra notes here.
No, let us have your notes.
I was just thinking of how when the boys are standing around waiting for the ferry crew to rock up, and they're sort of like Perrin's showing his axe, and Rand is copying Lan, and they're sort of trying to be intimidating. Like, these are farm boys, right? And they're trying to be intimidating with weapons. This would have been the first time any of them would have thought to do it. I bet you Matt was just like freaking out that he didn't get to take part in it. Like, he's probably the only one that would revel in that. Rand and Perrin, especially Perrin, would be super, super awkward doing that. So it was just a funny scene to me to think of them like posturing with these weapons, and they're just these fucking stupid farm boys. And when Tom does his flourish with the knives and then starts cleaning his nails, or pretending to be trimming his nails, Moraine gives and these are the words they use, low and delighted laugh. Like, you don't see her just react that way. So, Vinny, I was wondering if that maybe caught your eye this time as well.
It's all of these little Easter eggs is now standing out, like it's highlighted in the book for me.
Totally, for me as well, because this is the first time I'm reading the first book since finishing the series. I haven't reread the series after finishing it. And, the Tom and Moraine thing sort of only happens towards the end, I think Towers of Midnight or something. When Moraine talks to Egwene about becoming Aes Sedai, she says, who knows, maybe one day you even become Amelin Seat, and sort of just jokes, or like, says it in passing, but of course we know she does. And then some. And also the last thing I had was when Moraine is trying to teach Egwene how to reach out to the source and touch the source with the little blue stone. She says to her, there is only the stone and emptiness. And the way she explains it to her sounds almost exactly like the flame and the void.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very point there. So Rand has already got the way to do it. He's pretty much been introduced and trained to do it.
Exactly. He's good at it. Like, he can do the flame and the void. So it actually goes a long way to explaining how later he takes to channeling as quickly as he does. Yeah, so they're out of the two rivers now, officially. So you guys ready to move on?
Yeah, let's keep it going. We're getting to the good bits now. There's a lot of talking coming.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 13, choices. Hit it, Joe.
Hey, all right. So yeah, in this chapter, they're in what I've imagined as a beaver dam, like where they're hiding, for the night. in these like washed up trees that have formed some sort of dam. And they spend the night there. Moraine again heals everybody or gives them some respite. Even old Tom, who's not a big fan of it.
She smiles as she does it, and he scowls.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we know he warms up eventually. So yeah. So anyway, then they hit the road. They wake up early, and they're on the road to Baerlon, however you pronounce that. And on the way, this takes a couple of days. They're on the road for a couple of days, and then land and starts training the boys because Egwene starts taking more lessons with Moraine about how to channel, and they go off for their little mini women's circle meetings in the woods. And then Land takes over training the boys. And the first time he starts, okay, let's see what you can do with a bow. They all just dominate. You can't fault these kids for knowing how to use a bow. And Land is clearly impressed, but also is like, oh, well, that's great if the Trollocs are far away from you, but if they get really close, what are you going to do then?
And standing still.
Yeah, and standing still. And so, yeah, like you have to learn to. So he teaches Perrin about the axe a little bit, how to parry and hit, and then starts training Rand with the sword that his father's sword that he's carrying. All right, and then at night as well, when they're not doing that, Tom is telling them stories. So they got like it's great that he's along as well.
Yeah,
keep them from losing their minds. And this is all where you can see. Telling them stories about the hunt for the horn, and also where Egwene starts to grow a little bit more. She's always like, I'm going to Tar Valon, I'm going to become an Aes Sedai. She's always looking to the future, and where the boys are always looking to the past. All three of them was like, we're going to go home. How are we going to get home? We'll be home in about 2 months. It's all they talk about is going home. So yeah, a bunch of softies.
She calls them out on it.
Yeah. No, and they have a huge argument, her and Rand. Eventually they start a heated argument, and then when they finish, they stop and look around in the camp, and they've been screaming at each other. Yeah, nice job keeping it on the down low, guys. It's not like we have dark friends chasing us or anything. So anyway, yeah, they have that argument. Later, the boys make plans to run away down south, go to Ilion and Tyr, and that's when Egwene, of course, hears them. She's been listening in on this whole thing the whole time, and starts telling them stories about that and about the Stone of Tyr, and. Is this the chapter where the sword is not a sword? The sword that cannot be touched in the Stone of Tyr, yes.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. It's a bit further on in my notes. Yeah. So that's where we learn about that. We learn about the Aes Sedai as well. We learn a bit more about how the power works and the 5 elements. And and Egwene's fears that she's going to be changed by the power are put to rest. Like, it just amplifies who you are. If you're already a bitch about it, then you're going to be a bitch, Aes Sedai. But if you're a good person, then it's not going to do anything to you. So yeah, that's where we get the first inklings that reminded me of all the Black Aja.
And just the different personalities at the White Tower. Like there are like the Verins that are, quiet and reserved, and then there's the, everyone else with, every personality you can imagine. Elida and her sort of bullish nature. Like, yeah, it's just it is, like you said, it's your first glimpse into, the Aes Sedai are not all unified and the same thing. They have very strong personalities, and because they live so long, like there's probably a lot of like really ingrained character traits that are hard to shake. Sure. But yeah, you have no idea reading this the first time just how pretty fucked up the relationships in the White Tower is.
It's a divided tower, yeah. I mean, yeah, it even literally divides later on. So yeah, very much so. But yeah, and then they arrive afterwards. After this travel, this trip of theirs, they arrive at Baerlon, the big massive city, and the boys are freaking out. Like, my God, a city! Tom's just laughing at them. Yeah, city, sure, whatever. And then they meet the gatekeeper, who seems to know them very well. Mistress Alice and Master who? I've forgotten his name. Andra. Yes. Or Elise. What is it, guys?
Elise. I'm voting on Elise.
You're voting Elise.
I'm gonna alternate between the two to keep you both happy.
All right. That's good. It's very Aes Sedai of you. So then they speak to the gatekeeper, who's like, giving them the whole heads up. Yeah, there was a battle in Gildan between Loghain. I think he gets mentioned by name at some point. That's the first time we hear about him, and that he won. And he's on his way to the Stone of Tyr, because that's where Kalandor is. or Kalando. This is going to get crazy. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so that then we hear a bit more about that and the history of Tyr, and it was the first city built after the breaking, and that's where they hid the stone. All right. So yeah, they head into the city, and that's where they get to the inn where they're going to stay, the Stag and Lion, and we meet Master Fitch there, who is the owner of the tavern, and who has our most recent casting choice for the TV series I found.
Oh, that's
I don't know
correct.
if you guys saw that. Yeah. So that's him.
Wasn't that Basil Gill?
Was it? No.
The innkeeper in Camelin, the royal queen's man, the guy that's like super into Morghese, and I thought it was Basil Gill.
Is it? All right. Well, I might be wrong. Anyway, and that's where they arrive. And the stablemen are not one of them. I can't remember his name. The stable guy there is not
Mulch.
Mulch.
There's
Whatever.
There's no L.
There's no L.
M-U-T-C-H.
That's Much. Dark friend. Anyway, and like now I'm so suspicious of everyone reading this book. Like, I don't know this guy. He's a dark friend. End of story.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's what happened. So yeah, the long journey, learned about a bunch of stuff along the way, and now they're at the Stag and Lion.
Their whole travel, doesn't Lan also keep them on the back road, that they're not traveling sort of on the main road?
Yeah, and they're switching back and forth the whole time.
Yes, like
they're actually changing tack.
That's trying to make sure they don't get tracked.
They go past a farm at some point and they skirt it, like they give it such a wide berth that they can barely make out the people.
Yeah, absolutely. He really doesn't want to be seen by anyone on the road.
Nah. Anything else, Bill?
No, that's a pretty good summary of events there. There's just a lot of talking. There's a lot of more sort of character building between Moraine and Egwene, and the tension that plays on the boys with this. Because you can really feel it on them. Rand is really taken by it.
Yeah. There's also a map for some reason.
Yeah.
A map that pretty much shows a stretch of road between, I think, Whitebridge and Camelin and then Baerlon up north. Don't really know what the point of that map was.
He has a map of a straight road. Thanks.
I went back to the world map in the beginning and I compared the two just to see, because obviously at this stage we're not in Whitebridge, so the context of this map is unknown at this stage.
There's one thing that I picked up on that map that was the statue of Arthur Hawking.
Okay. Is there significance to that?
It comes in one of the chapters. They overnight close to it, or they were blown away by the sheer size of it a little bit later, yeah. But I mean, no real significance other than that point.
The only thing I took away from that is that Whitebridge is pretty much, I think, halfway between Baerlon and Camelin along the Camelin Road. So I thought, okay, cool, just take note of that. So knowing obviously that they're going to go along it, that they're going to go to Whitebridge and Four Kings and Camelin, that just sort of cemented the geography of that stretch of the trip for me. We already mentioned the moment between Tom and Moraine when she heals him. And she smiles as she does it, probably knowing that it's bringing him discomfort because she can see the way he acts around all the time, and he just scowls again. My obligatory Lan-related pickup is that they mention that Mandab means blade in the old tongue. Like, yes, of course it does.
And that reminds me always of Fail later on.
Yes. Yes.
That's what she wants, because she's a hunter for the horn and wants to call herself Mandab, and they're like, you're going to name yourself after a horse.
Which I guess for her is like, I'm just thinking of it now, is an extra kick in the guts because she has quite a big nose.
Yeah. Shame Moritz.
Oh, you mean Robert Jordan?
Shame on you.
I think she's hawked nosed, not horse nosed.
I hope that I get to stand corrected. Something else I was just pondering, I don't know the answer to this, but Moraine, after seeing Lan give the boys lessons with the weapons, she asks him to continue, and I couldn't tell if that was because she saw them and was just like, Jesus, these kids are fucking doomed. Lan, keep going with these lessons, or if she saw that like they actually had something in them, which I think is more likely if you read about their athletic and sort of physical prowess in the chapters leading to this, and even in a couple coming up now.
Yeah, there was something as well. She said, I would rather, destroy you before I let the Dark One have you. When they're all talking about running away to Tyr, she's like, I'll kill you before you
Yes.
guys run away from me. Like, whoa.
Yes. That is my very next note is
Ah,
she says that rather than let the Dark One have them, make no mistake about it, I will destroy you myself.
mm,
And they're just like, okay. she's not exactly doing herself any favors in trying to win their loyalty. This thing about her sinking the ferry also comes up a couple times
yeah.
yet, even in this stretch of chapters. And then the last thing I had was that when they are talking about Logain winning that battle
Mm,
and marching to Tyr, his followers have started calling themselves the people of the dragon.
mm,
And someone draws a comparison to the prophecy about the stone of Tyr falling when the people of the dragon come to it.
mm,
Of course, we know now
mm.
that the people of the dragon are the Aiel
Yeah.
and not Logain's followers. And that does happen later when the Aiel are there. That's when Rand takes Kalandor.
Kalandor.
We're gonna have to say all these names twice,
Yeah.
both pronunciations, just to cover all bases. But yeah, that's it from me.
Right on.
So, chapter 14, the stag and lion. Okay, so when the boys get in there, or everyone gets in there, it's obviously very busy. They hear a lot of stories about men coming down from the mines, and like the situations outside of town being really bad. And when the weather eased up a little bit, everyone just came straight down and sort of filled up the town. Moraine asked a couple of questions about Whitecloaks, and the innkeeper says, "Yeah, there's a rumor there's an Aes Sedai in town," and everyone's sort of like, "Okay, really?" But he plays it down, and then Moraine asks after Min,
Mm,
who, as we know, becomes a very, very central character later in the story. But after she does, then Moraine and Egwene disappear, and the boys get led off by one of the servants for bath time. I don't take baths; I shower because I think baths are gross. But the way the baths in this scene are described, they sound like the best thing that has ever happened to anyone. Just all the talk about like how they've been riding so hard for so long, and they've been sleeping on the ground, and they're all knotted and tired, and then they go sit in these hot copper baths, and they get to just luxuriate for a while. And as they relax, Matt's tongue is just loose. He's just talking about, like, he just wants to talk about Trollocs and everything. And then Lan comes in and he basically just shits on them and then takes a bath himself. And everyone continues bathing in silence. We see Min for the first time. When they come out, she is busy talking to Moraine, and Rand can't even tell whether she is a boy or a girl. They're just sort of at the end of the corridor.
mm,
And then, but Rand doesn't interact with her at that point. So they go to their rooms, and then they go for dinner in a private dining room. And I almost had a bit of a chuckle at the scene because it sort of looks like a family dinner from the
oh,
outside. Lan and Moraine are sitting at either end of the table, and the kids are sitting in the middle. Um, and what happens for the first time as well is that Lan and Moraine sort of start talking without, going off by themselves.
yeah.
They have a discussion in front of the rest of the guys. And then Lan just mentions Logan winning a battle in Gildan, and he says that there's no reliable information about the Aes Sedai that went to go deal with that situation. So that would obviously have been a contingent of Red Archer that was
Mm,
sent from the tower, and Moraine, being Aes Sedai, obviously has a vested interest in finding out what happened to them, but Lan just says he can't hear. And then after dinner, everyone basically goes to bed. And that's when Rand has his terrible nightmare. He just dreams of this endless corridor that he's walking down, lit by eerie light, ethereal, non-real light, and he can't find the end of the corridor. So he goes into one of the rough doors along the side, and he comes into this room with a balcony that is open to the sky, and the sky is this impossible swirling of clouds, and the room is also all weird angles, and there's a massive fireplace, but it's not giving off any heat. There's just a plain table in the middle, and then when he looks back to the fireplace, someone is standing there, and it is a guy that introduces himself as Baelzamon, who, as we know and have said on this podcast many times, we know is Ishmael. Um, I remember the scene, his eyes and mouth being fire,
mm,
but it's flashes of that. It's almost like, I don't know if he does it intentionally, but he sort of lapses every now and then. The sockets of his eyes and his mouth seem to be windows into a dimension of eternal fire. It's basically a gateway to hell. And he just starts talking to Rand about, saying to him, are you him? Are you actually him? And then, making him understand that he is nothing, and he will serve the Dark One, and if he doesn't, he'll die, and then he'll be his anyway, because the dead serve him. He offers Rand a drink that Rand refuses, and I don't know what the significance of that would have been.
I thought the same thing. I was wondering that. I mean, he was so blatant about it, and then so blatantly disappointed when Rand didn't drink from it.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not very subtle.
I don't remember anything, and I mean that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, because it's been so long since I read them. But I don't remember anything specific being mentioned about what would have happened if he had taken that drink. I'm finding that these dream sequences, and if I'm honest about it, probably the first book, or maybe even the first two books, have some concepts that are a little more fuzzy than the rest of the books, especially when compared. Like, I mean, I've read, and you guys have read some Brandon Sanderson novels after he did the Wheel of Time work, right? And in his stories, he's always, what I love about him is that he sets up these rules that he explains to you, and then everything adheres to these rules. Where here, with these dreams, and even with the explanations of the dream world and dream walking and stuff later, there's nothing obvious about what this signifies, him missing, not having this drink. And also, I mean, he picks up a rat and he sort of bends the thing backwards and snaps its back in this dream, and you find out in a later chapter that all the rats in the inn have broken backs.
Yeah, I think it's that same chapter.
Next chapter, yes.
It's the next one. But he was able to do that to the rats. So could he have done that to Rand?
Yeah, in one of the dreams, Rand touches a thorn. I think it comes a bit later, while him and Matt's traveling on their own. And he wakes up and his finger's bleeding. So there is a sense of reality to what happened in those specific dreams affect you in real life.
If you die in the Matrix.
Well, yes, exactly. It's just like the Matrix. It's very well established later in the story, like when Egwene starts, doing proper dream walking and manipulating the world of dreams. Perrin does it. It's made very clear that if you die in the dream, you die in real life.
Yes.
But here, why would Ishmael not have killed Rand right then and there? If he could do it in the dream and he was there,
I think his job is not to kill him, but to turn him. He is the Dark One. Yeah, he is property of the Dark One. So the orders are don't kill him.
Yes, and that's my sort of fallback. Like, okay, cool. He didn't want to kill him.
Maybe it's just something to make him violently sick. Can't travel, can't run, get caught.
Maybe the drink was to actually poison him to slow him down in real life. That fits. That now is getting slotted into my head canon. Nice one. Thanks, Phil. No, and that solves the mystery of the dream drink. But Belzamon, or Ishmael, also carries on about, like, he sort of bragging about all the stuff that he's done in the past. And what I thought was cool was how he's talking about, like, he was at Lews Theron's shoulder, telling him, he was the one that told Lews Theron to kill his wife and to kill his children. He was the one that told Arthur Hawkwing, send your armies across the ocean. He was the one that told Arthur Hawkwing that the White Tower must be destroyed. And as we know, later in the series, the Seanchan come back and they target the White Tower and they do try and destroy it. This is still the fallout of Ishmael's work back in the time of Arthur Hawkwing. So, I mean, he has these well laid out plans that have been, been brewing and bubbling under and simmering for centuries.
Not to mention their general disdain of any woman who can channel the Seanchan, that is.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the White Tower, but anything related to it. I mean, that's where it comes from.
Totally. Yeah.
But one thing, I'm not so certain that everything he's bragging about is true, because in the prologue, he seems surprised by Lou's actions and the killing of his whole family. It's not like he arrives later. So I think he's just bullshitting, like, I did everything. It's all me.
Yes, I mean, he is arrogant, and he does claim himself throughout the series. He thinks he's better
But it's jealous, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. He also refers to Lews Theron and quote unquote his precious one power, alluding to the fact that, he uses something else, which Jody mentioned a couple of episodes ago. He was already using the true power, or the true, what is it called?
The true power.
It's the one power and the true power, yeah.
Yeah, that's not confusing at all.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, and then after he breaks the rat's back, Rand wakes up. What did you guys think?
Men. It's,
Men.
there's very little that is said at that. It's just a quick introduction to Min. But
it's not even an introduction. He just sees her she's on the other end of the corridor.
So no, just excited to see her come into the fold.
Yeah. I remember when I read this the first time, still thinking at this point, oh, Baelzamon, this is the dark one. This is the big bad. This is the guy. But yeah, that's not the case.
Yeah, and there was one thing. In the dream in Telanriod, or the world of dreams, is easier to pronounce. He talks, Baelzamon talks about Rand's parents, about your mother and your father. I don't know. I'm just trying to find the line here. But yeah, who were his mother was from Caemlyn, right? Was Tigraine, or do you remember this?
Yes, man. I remember her being a shield maiden.
She went across the wall.
But she did. You're right.
She came from Randland.
She's a relative of the royal line.
Yes,
isn't she?
Yes, that's
and
as far
she
as I
went
recall.
across the wall and became a shield maiden against all odds, and then came back across the wall and gave birth to Rand on the slopes of Dragon Mount.
As you do.
There's a story right there. Like, tell her story. I mean, that is amazing.
I'm sure that'll pop up. It does pop up later on because I know it. So we'll get there.
I'm impressed that you remember her name.
I think,
but that definitely rings a bell.
Yeah, Tigraine might be the king or something. I don't know. I think it was his wife after he died or something. I don't know, but we'll get there. Write it in the comments.
Leave us a message on bloodandashespodcast.com. Correct us, please.
Yes.
Okay, so Vil, why don't you take chapter 15, Strangers and Friends?
Okay. Now, Rand wakes up from that horrible dream. He's obviously not feeling as good as he felt after the warm bath the night before, and the body aches his back. But he notices Matt's already up and out, and he doesn't want to miss out. I mean, it's big city life now. They've never seen a big city. They're in a big city. I want to go and see everything. Everyone's a stranger. This is amazing. He's never been in a place where everyone's a stranger. And he gets up and he hops downstairs to peer into the kitchen and see Master Finch and Sarah having a little bit of an argument about Kiri the cat, and she's defending her cat to the point of almost resigning from her job as the cook for the inn. And he's like, okay, no, look, no, it is a good cat. No, please keep your apron on. We're full. We need food, type of thing. And Rand sort of listens to this, but can't pick up. She eventually sees Rand and says, come on in. You probably want some breakfast. Your one friend has already gone out to town, and the other one is sick in bed. Perrin is upstairs still, apparently sleeping. And Rand sort of eats his food, and then he hears, and she continues to tell the story about the cat killing so many rats and just breaking their backs and leaving them in the common room, and a whole dozen of them. So that is pretty odd that there's a whole dozen dead rats in there. And there's then he decides, okay, scoff the food down, milk. I think it's milk, bread, and cheese.
It's always milk, bread, and cheese.
And he hops up back to and find Perrin, and then also find out that Perrin again had the same dream. And he says to Perrin, well, yeah, there's dead rats downstairs with broken backs. But Perrin still makes the decision, look, I'm staying in bed. He's purely really shaken by this dream, pretty much the same as Rand was. And then Rand makes his way out the back door, and at the stables, old Much gives him another glaring eye again, and Min corners him and starts striking up a conversation with him, and lets him know that she actually knows Lady Elise as Moraine as well, to which he was quite surprised, and sort of, okay, well, how do you fit into this picture? Which she's like, no, I don't really know, but I see things. So he's like, oh, you see things? Give us a bit more of an idea. What do you see? And then she goes into a lot of very, very important things about each and every of the characters that she sees. She doesn't know what it means. What she does know generally is, and at that stage, is like, I can see if people are going to marry, and that I can figure out for myself. And she says, I can see you love Iguin. And he's like sort of taken by that. But I think we'll catch up on that after this, because there's going to be a lot to discuss into those things that they see there.
Yeah, she drops a lot of images for each of the characters. She tells exactly what the images are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rand goes out and hits the streets, and everyone looks familiar to him. Like, this could be one of that one's brother back home, and he's quite taken by it, but everyone's a stranger. And then he sees a face that's really familiar. Deep set eyes and a big hook nose, dirty smelling dog type looking guy.
That's it, Billy. Go.
That's it. And there he goes. It's Payden Fane. And Rand sort of, Mr. Fane, like, and he wants to bolt away, and he goes after him till eventually he can corner him, like, hey, what happened? We thought you were dead. We thought you were killed. And he looks like trash. I mean, his clothes is torn, half burned. He looks like he's been through the wars, and he's been on foot. But even at the offer of come and see us at the inn, come and stay there, have a hot meal at least, he doesn't want him to say anything of his presence there. He says, please especially don't tell the Aes Sedai. Like, don't let her know. I don't want her to know about it. And Rand doesn't think too much about it. Says, no, not a worry. And he runs off. And at that, he wanted to still speak to him. Rand sets off after him again, and Payden Fane loses him in the alleyways. And Rand literally runs into Mat. And literally, they get up and they catch their first glimpse. They first discuss the fact that Mat also had the same dream. So now again, all three boys had exactly the same dream of breaking backs of rats and not liking it. And also, are they going to tell Moraine about this now? And they decide, no, they'll speak to Tom. He's going to be the guy. Tom was performing earlier when Rand was looking for him in the common room at the inn.
Yeah, Matt brings up, he uses the word chances. He talks about basically odds of, what options do they have available to them if they tell Moraine, and what do they have available to them if they talk to Tom, which is one of the first hints at his predilection for gambling.
Yes, his gambling addiction.
Judging by the outcomes.
Yes.
So they decide that, okay, let's do that. Let's go after Tom. But they spot three breast-plated men walking with white capes that's just above ground level, looking really smug and pleased with themselves. And Mat notices a look in, Rand notices a look in Mat's eye that just spells badger. Like, and he jumps through a window, up a building, out another window, on top of the roof tiles. And he had spotted the stick precariously balancing a bunch of empty barrels upright against the side of the road. And with his sling, he shoots a rock at it, and of course hits the stick, smashes it.
One shot.
And all the barrels come rolling and into the mud in front of the Whitecloaks. And they are covered. And Rand doesn't think anything but laughing at this. And that didn't go well, because obviously the Whitecloaks are now pissed off and entitled. So they decide, like, okay, right, well, what are you laughing at? And this is now where it really gets interesting, because Rand is thinking, I should cover my sword hilt. But he does the opposite. He throws his cloak completely back, and he's incredibly confident. And the one Whitecloak stands back and says, like, oh, no, Captain, he's got a heron mark blade. And this sort of draws attention, but how can a young boy have this? And it's also the introduction of old, what is his name now?
Bornhold.
Bornhold is a key prick in the storyline.
It's a lot of those in the storyline, eh?
Class A prick. I was going to say, Robert Jordan does a great job of signposting which characters you should like and which you shouldn't like. Hey, like, I mean, there's no messing about. When these Whitecloaks are walking up the street, you're just like, no, I don't
No,
like these guys. I don't
no.
like their vibe.
And Rand is almost in a sticky situation. And even though his responses at this exchange, he thinks what he should be saying, but says the opposite, sort of almost fueling this conflict as if it's not him, but also feeling very hot at that same time. He's getting amped up. His face was started flushing. And already you can feel that, okay, well, something else is taking control of him here at this event. And lucky for him, the watch rocks up, the town watch with their quarterstaffs, and they are not happy with the Whitecloaks being in Baerlon. They want to sort of deal with him, and the situation gets sort of diffused. And Matt and Rand is able to get out of there and go and find Tom. And they do find Tom Perrin and start telling Tom about the dream. And at that, Perrin comes running and saying, like, "Oh no, there's trouble here.
Worse than Whitecloaks.
Worse, forget the Whitecloaks.
Yeah.
The wisdom is in the inn."
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, Veli, about the losing of control and stuff. I thought when I first read that he was, touching the one power, but I'm thinking it's more influenced by Belzamon and the dream before, because he's walking around that in that chapter saying his head is aching and he's getting fuzzier and fuzzier and he can't think straight and it's getting worse as the day goes on. And perhaps this is where that drink comes into play. Like Ishmael would have had complete control over him if he had taken the drink. Maybe it's a symbol for control, or for what's that weave called? Compulsion. So perhaps he was only slightly touched, which is why he's not absolutely dead.
Yeah. It was weird behavior.
Yeah.
It was totally against his nature.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's not a cocky guy, and he was sort of laughing in their face, and when they said, "Oh, you're not going to answer our questions," he just stays quiet and he rocks back on his heels.
Yeah,
like with a smirk on his face, and that is not Rand at all.
Exactly.
Dark friendish behavior.
Dark Rand.
Dark Rand.
For sure. Yeah. So that was a good chapter. I like that chapter a lot. I mean, the boys out there doing exactly what they're not supposed to do.
Yes.
Do not draw attention to yourselves. Hey, wait, look, Whitecloaks. Let's fuck with these guys.
And Rand just spills all the beans to Paden Fane.
Exactly, yes.
We are here. We're staying at this inn.
to us, a known dark friend. But, yes, like Jody said, they are just doing exactly what they should not be doing. Matt, why did you have to, he breaks into a shop's upper level attic and climbs out of a window onto the roof to play this prank on Whitecloaks. I mean, fuck Matt. Lan would have killed him on the spot if he was there.
The blame lies with Moraine. She decided to stay 2 nights. You know what these kids are going to do. Why are you staying an extra night? Why put them in the city for a whole day?
She shouldn't have left them to their own devices.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, and go out into the streets, please.
No. As fathers, as we all are, if you take your kids to a bar and leave them alone for 2 days, they will get up to shit. Like, face it.
They sure will. Gosh, I'm just picturing that. God damn.
Okay, let's quickly hop back. Sorry, Moritz. To
No,
Min.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Go back to Min's viewings.
Yes.
I've got them listed out here if you guys want them.
Oh, yeah, let's go. I've got as well Lan. She sees Lan with the 7 pillars and a baby with a sword. 7 towers, sorry.
Of Melchior.
Yes, a Melchior and a baby with a sword.
Yes, I always give my baby swords. I find it's very soothing.
It's the safest place for a sword.
Yes.
So yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you've read the New Spring, I suppose.
Have you read New Springville?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
So you know the story about Lan, how he was rushed out of the country by a couple of royal swordsmen who died basically to get him delivered to Shinar or some other borderlands country.
He was the heir to the throne.
Yes. Next up,
we've got Rand. That's got a sword that's not a sword. A crown of gold, a laurel crown of gold, laurel leaves.
Yeah, gold leaves.
Beggar staff. Pouring blood running down him pouring water onto the sand. A bloody hand and a white hot iron. three women standing over is that a bier? Is that like a type of coffin?
Yeah, I think it's where they rest you when you're dead. Like
Okay. At a funeral bier with you in it, a black rock with wet blood. Now that's a whole heap full of things that she sees with them there.
Yeah.
And some of them are okay. The golden crown is when he is for King of Ilion. The beggar staff.
Well, the sword that isn't a sword is the first one. That's obviously Kalandor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Kalandor.
Beggar staff, I don't know.
Neither do I.
I couldn't remember.
Isn't a Sa'angreal at some point that it may be a reference to one of the Sa'angreal?
Which Sa'angreal?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That's like
You got to be.
that's an interesting one. I'm not sure about that one.
The only thing that I can think of for Rand that is a staff, doesn't he get stabbed in his side by Ishmael's staff at the end of the Great Hunt?
Yes, he does.
He does.
That wound that never heals. What does he get stabbed with?
I thought it was a spear.
I thought it was a sword because he makes a sword out of fire in his hands, and they fight in the skies over Felme, and then he gets stabbed. I think it's a sword fight. But anyway, I think that's
okay.
But that beggar stuff, not so sure.
Beggar, I mean, at one point when he and Matt are traveling by themselves, they sort of look like beggars because they're sleeping under hedges and sort of playing music and trying to scrounge money together. I don't know. Like, I just, again, write to us from the bloodandashespodcast.com website and let us know what the hell is this beggar staffman's banging on.
We're changing that website to Bella Podcast.
It's in the works.
Yeah, this is not much of a podcast, is it, people that are listening? They come here for information, all we do is ask them.
Oh, no. Information is not what you should be coming here for. If you want open-ended questions and inane rambling, pull in.
The bloody hand and a red hot fire. What's a red hot iron? Obviously, Rand losing his arm, his hand, his forearm.
He loses a hand, yeah.
And then we've got the
pouring water on the sand.
Pouring water on the sand. That plays to Aiel in the waste.
Doesn't he make it rain there?
Yep.
He makes it rain in that big gathering place where they all get together, and he makes it rain for the first time in all of their lives.
Yes, that's right.
And it's still not enough to convince half of them.
Yeah.
No, we're going to go with the other guy.
Yeah, that other douchebag with the fake tats.
Tat sleeves.
The next one.
The black rock with wet blood. I don't know that one. Is that the Eye of the World one? Or
that's I'm 82% sure that is a reference to a fight at Shile Ghul.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a whole heap of things that
3 women over a funeral beer.
Your pronunciation is not our strong suit.
Oof. And this is not even a fantasy word.
Yeah.
I promise by the next episode I will have learned how to pronounce that word.
All right.
It's my solemn oath to you. Min and Rand talk about after she mentions all these signs and stuff that she sees around him and the 3 women. He also asks her something about like, is this a dream, or is this something like a dream? And she laughs and she goes, "Well, it might be what you consider a dream, but it's certainly not what I would have expected for myself." And he's confused by that. So she knows she's one of the women,
Yes.
and the dream for him would be to have 3 women that are in love with him. And she already knows that you cannot escape her viewings; they always come true without fail. And now she's already recognized herself as one of those 3 women, and she's already saying it's not what I would have pictured for myself. So she's processing that eventuality already from like the time she saw Rand probably on the other side of the corridor in the previous chapter.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Sorry, Min. Sharing is caring.
I read something about Robert Jordan included that because when he was young, he had dated 3 women at the same time, and it was awesome, and he wanted to put it in the books. That's why I read.
Amazing.
3 wives or 3 women or whatever.
All right, Perrin. He's seen with wolves. Matt is seen with a red banner.
Oh, we're just going to skip over that. Perrin wolves, whatever.
Yeah. Perrin and wolves, running with wolves.
Also, trees flowering.
Ah, that's right.
around Perrin.
Was that not? He spends a lot of time with the Tinkers. Is that perhaps something to do with them?
Mhm. And are they not the descendants, the people, the Way of the Leaf? They're the guys that used to know
Exactly.
the song, and
Exactly.
they used to make things flower and sprout and grow.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah, that's a connection I haven't made. Great.
It's shortly after Matt meets up with the Tinkers that he also throws his axe away.
Perrin.
Perrin.
Yeah.
Perrin, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Then, okay, Matt with the red banner. That is a pretty straightforward and obvious one.
Yes.
God, I love this guy.
Horn and a dagger with a ruby in the hilt.
Pretty specific.
Pretty specific.
Right on the nose.
And we've got Tom with...
Wait, hang on, buddy.
one did I
You've
skip?
missed an important one. An eye upon a balanced scale. Now, Billy, I don't blame you for not knowing this one, but for the benefit of those people that do, I'm going to spoil another part of the end of the story for you now. But Matt loses an eye. He has a decision to make, and the result of his decision costs him an eye. So just when you thought Matt couldn't get any radder, he gets an eye patch.
He's now a pirate.
That was, and I think I read Matt, but no, he loses his vision temporarily before they reach Tarvalon.
He does, but I think it's in the Towers of Midnight, which are those towers that take you to the land of the snakes and foxes. He makes a deal with them.
Yes.
You read the Towers of Midnight?
Yes, I read the Towers of Midnight.
When he goes back to save Moraine?
Yes. No, I read he went in, but I didn't finish the book. So
okay,
that's
cool.
obviously he went in through to this. I remember the foxes. It's like weird people, almost like aliens.
It's a different dimension.
Yes.
The power doesn't work there. It's completely different. All the rules are different.
So, yeah, I do remember him losing an eye. That I do remember because he...
You do? Okay,
yes.
well, yeah. Someone at some point later in the story also says that Matt is destined to sacrifice half the light of the world, which sounds heavy, like a Thanos finger snap sort of thing. But it's just him literally not being able to absorb the same amount of light as everyone from the world.
Yes, 50% less.
And then also a laughing face.
Is that around Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't he just because he's a joker?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. She doesn't say his laughing face. She just says a laughing face. Could be anyone. Could be Tuon. And Tom?
Fire juggling man that is not him, and the White Tower.
Is that not his nephew? A channeler?
That's what I thought.
Male channeler?
Yeah.
And then the
White Tower, obviously. Yeah. Doing their White Tower business on his nephew.
And then no distinct pictures when she speaks about...
It was meant to.
Moraine and Egwene, just the colors.
Yes. She says that she sees that around all women of Moraine's type, basically hinting at Aes Sedai, and she sees it around Egwene as well.
Or the woman that can channel.
Yes.
That's got
true. Yes.
Disposing the gift of channeling. So that is that's so many giveaways right in that section there.
Yeah, this is a pretty packed chapter.
Yeah, there's a lot of happenings there.
Yeah. The last thing I had from that chapter was that the boys decide that they, with Tom's guidance, that they would tell, or actually, no, the boys, Matt and Rand, decide that they will tell Tom and not Moraine based on the fact that she crashed the ferry. She destroyed the ferry. So they're like, oh, I don't know, she's a bit hectic. Can we really tell her this thing?
Well, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong, but she did tell them earlier on to, and the first thing that she asks Rand when he came back into from the farm and walked in to find her to help Tam was, not hi Rand, like, how's your dreams?
Yeah.
So that already back then she started questioning dreams and said, because I can help you with your dreams.
Yeah.
So I think that's also, she's kind of expecting that would be an angle of attack on the boys.
Sorry to jump around on these topics, but I also had a question from this chapter about Bornhold. There are two Bornholds in the story, right? There's a dude and his dad.
Yeah,
and the dad is killed. Dane and Geofram?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
One of them is killed by Perrin, or is killed when Perrin and Egwene escape the Whitecloaks after they've been captured.
Yeah.
And that's why the son has this irrational hatred of Perrin specifically. And I was just wondering, which one is this? I mean, he's acting like a uppity douchebag, so I'm assuming it's the son and the same one that sort of hounds Perrin for the rest of the story. But I was just wondering, which Bornhold is it? I think his dad, or the older Bornhold that is killed,
Wasn't his dad like a high captain or something?
is higher. He's higher ranked here.
Now he wouldn't be walking the streets at night and
No, it was daytime, but he wouldn't walk the street with just two there. Plays into where it happened as well, because it's not very far from here. It's before they get to White Bridge, when they traveling just after Ilias, that they get captured, Perrin and Egwene.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's physically, it's not far from there.
Physically in the same area, so it would make sense.
Okay, I think we've squeezed as much as we can out of a Baerlon chapter. So Joe, why don't you take us into chapter 16, the wisdom?
The wisdom. Now, when I read this this chapter title, I was like, oh yeah, and then nothing happens, basically. Yeah. So at the end, we realize, hey, Nynaeve's in town, and they go back to the lion and stag, and yeah, she's there to take the boys back, and they have a conversation and convince her not to. The end. Literally the only thing that happens. I mean, we get a little bit more. There's a few little details. There's the Nynaeve versus Moraine show off
standoff. Yeah,
little standoff. The Batman v Superman of our time. And
there was tugging of braids.
Oh, there was tugging.
I took a note. Page 232, the first braid tug.
Yes, she has her braid in a fist, giving it sharp tugs. It seems very uncomfortable.
I'm going to count them as we go through. I'm going to count the braid tugs. I'm going to count the braid tugs, the skirt smoothing, and the folding of arms under the breasts. Those are the three I'm going to keep track of. Why don't we just
each take one? It'd be easier.
It's okay. I think I can handle it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be in the thousands when you're done. So yeah. Anyway, they at the end they all have a sit down, and Rand now is taking more control and is not such a wuss anymore. And even Nynaeve mentions it, like, you've grown so much since since I last saw you a week ago. You know, like you're asking questions and
questioning her authority and her actions.
Exactly. Why did you come? Why didn't anybody else come from the two rivers to come and fetch me? So anyway, they convince her after everyone has their choice. I like how Egwene is hiding behind Perrin under a hoodie.
Hood up so she can't see her hair.
Yeah, like they're back in that room, in the family room. So now this evil stepmother has arrived.
It's got such a family vibe in that room. This whole chapter is also weird. I mean, they go dancing afterwards.
Yes, it's really but I think it's written like that to like make us drop our guard a little bit. Like, look, everyone's having fun now, because you know what happens after that. We'll get to that in the next chapter. So then, what else? Yes, we see the first sign of Nynaeve's crush on Lan when he compliments her, because she says, well, I figured this is the only place you could come, and then I just followed your trail. And Lan's like, you followed our trail? What? So I'd spent a lot of time trying to make sure people couldn't follow us. So that's very good. He gives her a compliment on her skills, and she blushes.
He says that there aren't many people, even in the Borderlands, that would have been able to do that. And then she doesn't know what to do with a compliment, and she blushes and sort of hides in her cup.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic bit there. It's she's on point. She knows how to do a thing or two.
Yeah.
I wonder if Min sees the fact that they're going to get married.
I suppose we'll find out later. She probably does.
She probably does. But she also says that warders also have so many images around them that it's almost impossible to keep track of them.
Yeah. Ooh. And especially Lan, being king and all.
Yeah. What a character.
He's the best. And then it's also confirmed in this chapter, that's what Moraine is trying to get out of Nynaeve, is are any one of these boys born outside of the two rivers, and kind of gets let out, slipped that, yes, Rand was born outside the two rivers. So Moraine is on the right track, at least. She's confirmed in that. But yeah, that's about it. That happens in this chapter. Did you guys pick up anything I missed?
There was the very obvious bad guy in the room, in the common room, when everyone's dancing. The dude with the scar across all of his face. I mean, okay,
Yeah, like you were saying, Robert
is
Jordan paints a clear picture. Bad guy, good
yeah,
guy.
yes.
There's no
But
Jamie Lannisters in this story
no,
so far, at least.
he. I think Lan says that he's a spy for the Whitecloaks,
Yes.
but I don't know that the Whitecloaks ever really do anything with unless the Whitecloaks are the ones that burn it down eventually. But I mean, I like Jody just immediately thought, okay, Dark Friend,
Dark friend.
obvious Dark Friend,
Yeah.
obvious Dark Friend.
Yeah, it's really bringing a festive vibe in with him dancing, having a good time. Tom doing what Gleemens does in the common room.
Yeah, and it ends with them sort of finishing up, right? Like finishing the dancing and
Go
then
to
going
bed.
upstairs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which brings us to the last chapter for this episode, which is chapter 17, Watchers and Hunters. So after everyone's done dancing, they're all sort of retiring to the boudoir, and Rand stays behind to go get a glass of milk from the kitchen because he thinks it might help him sleep. So everyone goes upstairs. Rand goes to the kitchen and gets a glass of milk, and as he comes out of the kitchen, there's a fucking fade in the corridor, just right there.
Yeah.
And he comes up to Rand, and Rand is scared shitless, like he's not even thinking of his sword or anything. And the Fade's sort of just talking to him. And when they hear a commotion of someone coming downstairs, the Fade literally swings his blade at Rand and then stops it and says, "It's not for me to kill you. You belong to the Dark One," and then runs into the shadows of the hallway and disappears.
Yep.
And um, Lan comes down the stairs and he's like, "Okay, fuck this. We were going to leave early tomorrow morning. We're leaving right now." And I think the other guys actually already have their bedrolls and everything with them. So I don't know when they prep to leave.
They sensed the Fade was there. That's what they mentioned in one of the chapters, that because of the bond.
It's like a quarter mile or something like
Yes,
that.
there's like a
Lan can sense them, the
exact
evil.
can sense the evil, so
Yeah.
they knew it was close, and that's why they were already packing up.
Yeah. My next note is everyone leaves much a Dark Friend, because he's the one that leads them to the stables again, and he's just giving Rand all these sidelong glances, and he's obviously painted as a sinister character, or at least if he's not very sinister and smart, a ne'er-do-well. So everyone leaves, and the guard at the wall is talking about, he mentions that a dozen cows had been killed by wolves. Like, why do you want to go outside? There's wolves out there. A dozen cows have been killed this week. But I bet you those cows were killed by slightly larger animals than wolves, with horned heads and scythe-like swords, and have probably been raiding the farms in the area for some time. 5 Whitecloaks arrive, blocking them from leaving, and it turns out it's Bornhold and his cronies. He's sort of trying to intimidate them, and Lan is playing it super, super cool. And as Rand realizes it's Bornhold that he saw earlier that day, he tries to sort of shrink back. And as he's trying to make himself inconspicuous, he's like, "Oh, so someone doesn't want to be seen, do they?" And then he realizes who it is, and he decides, "That's it. You guys are all Dark Friends. I'm arresting all of you." And then Moraine just turns on the power, and she starts sort of like looming over them. And Rand says, "Oh, it seems like she's bigger." And then he realizes, hang on, she is bigger. She's off her horse and she's eye level with him, and he's sitting on cloud. Like, I mean, he's tall and he's sitting on a big horse, and she's like at eye level with him, and she's sort of scaring the shit out of the Whitecloaks. And Lan just says, "Okay, gun it, guys, let's bolt." And they squeeze through the gate, which is only halfway open, and like I think he says, like his shoulders actually touch like the door or the gate on the side. Like they squeeze out and they run, and as they look back, Moraine is actually taller than the palisades. You know, she's taller than the wall around the city. And to leave, she actually steps over the wall.
Yeah.
And as she steps over the wall, the gate closes, and they can hear the sort of the metal bar closing it up. She comes back, she rejoins them, and they ride off. And when they've ridden off a little ways, they stop and they look back and they notice a fire, or like they can see a light in the sky, and they notice that there's a fire. And everyone, Nynaeve and the boys, are all indignant about the fact that, oh man, they probably burnt down the inn. We need to go back and help them. And Moraine and Lan are just like, guys, we have bigger fish to fry. It's terrible. We'll send them money. It'll be fine. If they don't do anything stupid, they won't get killed. No one knows. But we cannot go back there. We have to keep going. And then they go and they camp. They ride off and they camp for like basically an hour, during which Lan just keeps an eye on everything, and then they set off on the Camelin Road.
On the run yet again.
On the run again. Now it's just a long race down the Camelin Road across the maps that we've just mentioned, and I guess the plan was to go to Camelin and then take a sharp left and head north to Tarvalon. They don't say that; they just talk about the end destination and the road that they're going to travel. I haven't read any further than this chapter, so I don't know if that was the intention, but there we have it.
I like Lan's little quip to Tom in that chapter. Tom asks, I hope if you guys don't mind, I'd like to ride with you. And he's like, ride with us or ride to Shail Ghul?
I don't care.
Fuck you. You know, fuck what you do.
Not a fan. Lan wasn't dancing.
Not at all.
In the inn. Moraine was.
Yes, she was.
And every time Rand dances with Egwene, well, not so much with Egwene, because it says he's been dancing with her for years. But when he's dancing with Nynaeve and Moraine, he's sort of like stumbling over himself and he doesn't know what to do. And then the second time round, he does a bit better and Moraine compliments him on his dancing, and that makes it worse.
Such a wool-headed sheepherder.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that chapter also pretty straightforward. Oops, there's a fade in the inn. I'm guessing, when they leave, Much, the the alleged dark friend, is standing in the road with a lantern, peering after them after they've left. So it's just like, again, ding, 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 ding. Thanks, Robert Jordan, for all the signs. This is a dark friend. I was trying to think, is it Much that sort of informed the Halfman about them being in that specific inn, or did Rand mention to Paden Fane specifically which inn?
Rand told him that's at the Stag and Lion. We're at the Stag and Lion. Come find us there, and we'll be there till tomorrow morning. Like, even giving him the time that they'll. It's like, here's our diary. Please,
we're in rooms 3, 4, and 7.
Yeah. I'll be fast asleep at midnight. Pull in. Yeah, it is just the mind boggles. Rand. Paden Fane was never a likable person. You are too trusting.
To River Bullhead.
So who burnt down the inn? The Dark Friends or the Whitecloaks?
I think the Whitecloaks.
Really?
The Dark Friends don't need to burn down the inn.
But how did the Whitecloaks know? They didn't know where he was. I mean, they only discovered him at the gate by accident.
But the man with the scar.
Now, was he? I mean, is it? I don't know, because you tell Paden Fane, and then right after that, there's a guy in the inn. I mean, it could be him that spread the word.
Well, I mean, Lan, who I see as a pretty reliable source, says that turns out he's a Whitecloak spy. So I think after the party leaves Baerlon, obviously with the children trapped inside because they can't get out through the gate, they go back to whatever source they have, or they would suspect that, you know, they stayed at the specific inn that one of their informants told them there were some people that match these descriptions, you know, whatever that is. And then in their self-righteous rage, they condemned everyone in the inn as harboring dark friends and therefore deserve this fate. That's my headcanon. I think it was the Whitecloaks.
Yes, also that exchange between Rand and Bornald when they had the laugh in the barrel section. He did say, like, this is not over. We'll continue with this. So nothing can stop them with their resources to put a person in every inn with a scar across the face.
Oh, they probably
probably done that and said, look, we're going to get you, and we will.
Yeah. They would have had informants all over the place.
I do believe that it's maybe also meant to be twofold, in the sense that there are so many dark friends around you the whole time, and you don't know who you can trust in any of these cities.
They don't all have massive scars across their face and lurk in the corner staring at you while everyone else is having a great time.
You could just imagine the orders going out. Yes, sir. Well, the Whitecloaks put one of our most conspicuous men in every tavern.
Yeah, he's a fucking terrible spy.
No, I've no doubt it's Peyton Fane. He's the number one.
I think Peyton Fane told the Fade, and that's why the Fade was there. But I think the Whitecloaks burnt down the inn.
That tracks with me.
All right, I will agree with you. just to avoid any
We vote
confrontation.
on what the true what the true narrative actually is. Did you guys? Well, I'm sure you did. But what were your favorite moments from this batch of chapters? Joseph, why don't we start with you?
Oh no, let's start with Villy.
This is not the greatest moment, but I really do like this moment where Lan gets off Mandab, stands all landly with his sword resting at the ferry, and Rand tries to copy it poorly, and Perrin sort of stands like a blacksmith, a block of a man.
He squares up.
Squares up, yeah, and then doesn't quite know how to rest his hand on his axe. And Matt is just like, what do I do with my quiver?
Yeah, with my wet bowstring.
And of course Tom flicking the dagger around and then cleaning his fingers, sort of the last guy to do something, and then also the best guy to do something, like an elaborate flick of everything, and catches for rain, catches it with the eye. I love that little moment.
Yeah, that's great. I also had a good old chuckle at that.
There was a scene where he was emptying, going through his pockets, Rand, and he was scraps and some 2 extra bowstrings and a piece of string he thought might be useful.
What is?
You got a piece of string, bro. Awesome, thanks. I do that a lot. I can relate to that. So that's my favorite moment. Keeping a piece of string because you thought it's going to be useful later.
Oh, maybe you are the Dragon Reborn.
I've thought so many times. Moritz?
My favorite moment was when Lan hears Nynaeve say that she just tracked them, and his complete surprise. He's like, "Wait, what? You tracked me?" And I was actively trying to cover my tracks, and then just how impressed he was. Nynaeve is one of my favorite characters, so like any moment that sort of ups her prestige within the group, I revel in that, because I really like her. I like the fact that she's fucking powerful in the power. I like the fact that she is not scared of anything, but she's brave as all hell, and she's got a real backbone. She tugs her braid too much, but that's a nervous tick, so I'll let that slide. But I love the fact that she just tracked him.
Her best trait is her desire to help. That's all she ever wants to do. That's why she's a wisdom. That's why she becomes a healer. She joins the Yellow Aja. All she wants to do is help and heal. So even though she comes across as a really hard ass, she's a big old softie.
She's fucking fierce. I love her. Okay, so that's it for this recording, guys. Next time we will cover chapter 18 to 23. So that's the Camelin Road to Wolf Brother. Which it just it makes me think we're gonna have a lot to talk about next time, just reading those 2 names. I haven't even looked at what the chapters are in between, but yeah, really looking forward to that one. I will say one more time without our added laughing in the background, but if anyone does want to leave us any comments or suggestions or corrections, please send them our way. Go to bloodandashespodcast.com and just leave us a comment on there. We will absolutely address any of those things in our next recording. And with that, I will say thank you to you 2 gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time to continue our journey. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.